I'll call this Bristol, Tennessee City Council meeting to order. Mary Lee, would you call the roll?
Fire Robin.
Here.
Hutton.
Here.
Powers.
Here.
Luttrell.
Here.
Turner.
Here. Welcome and thank you for attending the meeting. There are a number of opportunities to speak on matters of city business this evening. A sheet explaining those opportunities has been made available when you entered the meeting room. As we go forward with tonight's agenda, I will note each time when public comment is welcome. In addition, a sign-up sheet was provided as you entered council chambers. I would like to ask Vice Mayor Hutton to lead us in our invocation and Councilwoman Powers to lead us in our pledge.
Let's pray. God, you have blessed us in so many ways that it's impossible to even begin to fathom. As crazy as the weather was today, we're grateful for the rain because we know what it brings. And so we're thankful. We do pray for all those who are dealing with issues regarding the water. And we're thankful for our emergency responders who had to work through all that, and glad, Lord, that they would do so much to serve the people of this community. We pray your protection upon them and your blessings. We lift up this meeting tonight and ask that you help us to do things in a way that is pleasing to you, first and foremost, but also at the same time serves the people. Help us to be wise and diligent and discerning in all that we say and do. We give you thanks for my fellow council members, and I give you thanks, Lord, for the people of this community, and pray your great blessings upon the city of Bristol. We ask all of this in the powerful and awesome and marvelous name of Jesus. Amen.
You join me in facing the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, the first item on our agenda is the selection of our mayor and vice mayor. The city charter requires city council to select one of its members to serve as mayor and vice mayor each year, the first meeting of the calendar year. Accordingly, it would be in order for a motion to be made to choose a member to serve as mayor for this coming year.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make the motion to reinstate you, Vince Turner, as our mayor of Bristol, Tennessee for the coming year.
Okay, I have a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Is there any other nominations? Seeing none, Mary Lee?
Fire Robin.
Yes.
Hutton.
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Luttrell.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes. Thank you. Next we have, do I have a motion for vice mayor?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that Dr. Hutton be retained as vice mayor again for this coming year.
I would second that. Is there any other nominations? Seeing none, Mary Lee?
Fire Robin.
Yes.
Hutton.
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Luttrell.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
You know you always vote for yourself.
I know. I felt a little weird. Huh?
I'll just say thank you to council for being able to put me in this position one more year, and I'll do my best to continue on. I think we've done a lot of good things in the past year, the last 3 years, and so thank you.
I echo that and hope that we can get some hot chocolate and some cookies in a second.
Yeah. We're going to take a 15-minute recess, and then we will come back in session. So we'll go out of session for... What's that? Oh.
Stay seated.
You guys are doing it. Just we need to, we'll switch over. Does it be left, right, or does it do it?
Yeah. When it's really-
Let's back in session. Uh, Let's see where we left off here. Are there any additions to our agenda?
No, they're not.
Having none, we have one proclamation this evening. It's Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and Councilwoman Farham will read this proclamation. And we have Haley Griffith here from the Education and Outreach Coordinator for the Community Against Human Trafficking to accept the proclamation.
Thank you. And I'll just say, for several years, I didn't really realize or didn't think that this affected us here, and have found out differently, and it means a whole lot more and deserves our great attention. So thank you for bringing it forward for us. Whereas human trafficking occurs when a person is recruited, harbored, obtained, transported, provided, purchased, or obtained through force, fraud, or coercion for the purpose of performing labor or providing services, labor trafficking, or engaging in commercial sex acts, sex trafficking. And whereas it's estimated that approximately 27.6 million people are trafficked around the world, as many as 2,900 in East Tennessee alone. Whereas human trafficking erodes personal safety, dignity, and liberty, as well as the health and safety of communities at large. And whereas human trafficking does not discriminate based on age, sex, race, color, or national origin, but is, however, grounded in the inequitable conditions of relationships and society, and disproportionately affects vulnerable individuals and marginalized communities. And whereas the need is great to remove the veil of secrecy that allows human trafficking to thrive, disrupt the systems it depends on to flourish, and mobilize community support around survivors of human trafficking and help them as they seek to recover and rebuild their lives. And whereas a unified response by allied professionals, law enforcement, prosecutors, judges, victims, service providers, healthcare professionals, volunteers, and others is needed to provide safety, justice, and healing to survivors, hold offenders accountable, and promote the welfare of the community. And whereas the Tennessee Counter-Trafficking Alliance, through the Community Coalition Against Human Trafficking in East Tennessee, exists to educate Tennesseans about the reality and the pervasiveness of human trafficking, foster collaborative intervention and prevention efforts, provide comprehensive trauma-informed aftercare services to survivors, and advocate for more proactive legislation. And whereas during Human Trafficking Awareness Month and throughout the year, the City of Bristol has provided an opportunity to celebrate the collaboration and work that's been done while rededicating our lives to all that is still left to do, to reflect upon and honor the resilience, perseverance, and courage of survivors, and to urge everyone to recognize that we all have an active part to play in protecting the most vulnerable in our communities and ensuring survivors receive the care, support, and services that they need. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mayor of the City of Bristol, Tennessee, does hereby proclaim the month of January 2024 as Human Trafficking Month, and January 11th, 2024 as Human Trafficking Awareness Day, aligning with the state of Tennessee and the rest of the nation in renewing our pledge to remember victims and survivors of human trafficking and reaffirming our commitment to end their exploitation in communities across the city of Bristol. Signed, Mayor Vince Turner.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. We really appreciate this opportunity. Just to raise awareness about this issue, oftentimes what's depicted about human trafficking can be a very far cry from what we see on a day-to-day basis with the clients that we serve. Overwhelmingly, most victims of human trafficking are trafficked by someone that they know and trust and love. It's typically either a family member or an intimate partner. And it's a very underreported crime. We served 530 victims of human trafficking last year, and our referrals go up every year. It remains a very underreported crime, though, and so we really appreciate when there are opportunities like this for us to just bring awareness to the issue, because as we bring awareness to the issue, we find that our referrals do go up and we are able to reach more survivors and provide them with services. So thank you very much for this opportunity, for recognizing this month, for honoring survivors and remembering their experiences. Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, next we have one presentation by Mr. David Elkins, the Senior Manager from Brown Edwards, to present the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report.
Hello, as he said, my name's David Elkins. I'm a senior manager with Brown Edwards and Company. We had done this audit for several years when I first started working for the firm, and last year we started doing it again. So this will be my second year back in a while presenting this audit to y'all, and I thank y'all for allowing me the time to kind of go over this. I believe you all should have in front of you the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report for the year ending June 30th, 2023. So I'm just going to kind of hit a few of the high points related to this, just some of the numbers, not real in depth or whatever, just some of the more important things that we feel about it. Because as you can tell, this is a large 300-page document that a lot of hours go into preparing. But if you will look at Roman numeral page V. This is the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. There's not a lot of reports get submitted to the GFOA for this certificate program. It's a very strenuous program. Once you submit it, the report has to meet certain parameters every year. And this certificate relates to the actual report that was done last year for June 30, 2022. But this is the 20th year in a row that the City of Bristol has received this certificate, which I think is very impressive. Holly has submitted this report again this year to the GFOA, and we fully anticipate that this 2023 report should receive that certificate for the 21st year in a row, and that certificate will be in next year's report. But just want to say like that is a very impressive accomplishment to have done that for that many years, and have the dedication to make sure that everything is reported in these very strenuous standards. But as the independent auditors, our first thing that we attribute to this report is on page 1 through 4. That is our independent auditors report. And the most important part of it that we have in there is our opinion there. And the second paragraph says that in our opinion, the information is presented in material respects that everything is considered reported materially correct. We issued, this is what we call an unmodified opinion, a clean opinion. It's as good of opinion as we can report. There is one note in there that is a change in accounting principle related to a new GASB standard that was implemented for subscription-based information technology agreements. The city itself didn't have any that were recorded under this new standard, but Bristol, Tennessee Essential Services, which their report is included in here. We audited everything in here other than the Bristol, Tennessee Essential Services, which is noted in that opinion. It mentions the percentages that we as the city's auditor did not audit. And the Bristol, Tennessee Essential Services numbers were audited by another auditing firm, and we rely on their information and included in this report. But then if you would flip to I would recommend that if you want to kind of see the meat of this thing, pages 5A through 5Q are what is called the management discussion and analysis. This is information that is written by management of the city that basically takes all the numbers that come behind this, and they give you a current year to prior year comparison and kind of really just summarize it up in good, easy to follow terms, I think. So I think for anybody that's looking for just a big overall picture of the city, I think that's a very good thing. A few things to point out: the overall net position of the city increased a little over 8.2 million there. The governmental activities increased 13.23 million, while the business type had a decrease of almost 5 million. The vast majority of that decrease related to Bristol, Tennessee Essential Services and some things that they had going on. The Waterworks Fund had an increase of $314,000, while the Stormwater had a decrease of $37,000. So overall, although there is a citywide decrease for those project funds, it's primarily driven by Bristol, Tennessee Essential Services and their numbers. Page 6 through 8 are what we call the government-wide financial statements. These are some of those numbers I just mentioned, the governmental activities and business type. It also includes the Industrial Development Board, which was audited by Brown Edwards as well, and that information is included here. But I think typically some of the information that I think boards like to look at more are on these fund basis statements, which the fund basis statements begin on page 9. And that lists all of your major funds: your general fund, your chapter 420, the general purpose school capital projects fund, and then non-major funds. But so one of the things that I think boards tend to look at most is looking at these budget to actual schedules that are included in here. The budget to actual for the general fund begins on page 14 and goes all the way through page 17. The general fund revenues were about $3.1 million over the final budget, mostly due to some additional money that came in through sales tax, business tax, and motel tax. And then there was a very large increase in investment income. As we all know, interest rates are up right now. So the money that's in, the bank is drawing some additional interest that it hasn't drawn in the past few years. I would expect that will probably continue through at least part of this year, but at some point those interest rates will go back down, I'm sure, and those investment earnings will fall back to kind of more of what you're used to there. But the expenditures were about $381,000 over the final budget. No real particular line item jumps out there. It's just some of those individual line items can change from there to there. But the fund itself had a positive budget change for the year, and the general fund had a $2.6 million change in fund balance, which I think is you always want your general fund, especially, to kind of keep growing as much as you can. But the general fund had an ending fund balance of $23.85 million. Of that, about $17.8 million was in unassigned fund balance, and you had about 5.4 that, when you did your budget for 2024, was assigned for next year's budget to fund certain things included there. But if you look at that unassigned number, that is roughly a little over 6.5 months worth of operating expenditures for the general fund sitting in that unassigned amount, which I think is a pretty solid amount, because obviously revenues are going to keep coming in, through taxes and whatnot each year. But I think that's a very healthy unassigned fund balance compared to a lot of localities, I believe. But page 28 begins the notes to the financials, and that is probably about 75% of this document is what they call the notes to the financials. It breaks down additional information about individual debt issuances, capital assets, and then there's a whole lot of information related to the pension plans and the other post-employment benefit plans that are provided through the state. But like I said, those take up a good portion of this report. But our other contributions to this report are all the way towards the back on page 233 and 234. That is the independent auditor's report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters. We call this, to not use the whole name, we call this the Yellow Book report. But it states that we did not identify any things that we consider to be reportable as material weaknesses or significant deficiencies under the audit, and there were no instances of non-compliance under state regulations or anything like that we noted, which is always a good thing when you don't have any findings to report in these reports, because there's a lot of testing goes into it. On page 235 and 236 is the independent auditor's report on compliance for each major program. This is where we test all of the federal government funding that flows through. There's very specific tests that the federal government requires us as auditors to do based on particular federal funding that is received. But again, there were no findings related to that federal portion of the audit either. But the city received in fiscal year 23 about a little over $19.3 million in federal funding. A lot of that was some of the ARPA funding that has been flowing through and will continue to flow through. But there was about $4.2 million of that total was the ARPA funding that has flown through to the city. I think the city's been able to do a lot of good projects and stuff related to that. But like I said, there were no findings during the current year. Page 244, it's the summary schedule of prior audit findings. There was one audit finding last year related to filing a report with the federal government timely 2 years ago. That report was filed timely related to last year's audit, so the finding related to last year was not noted in this year's audit. But that's kind of this massive 300-page document in a very quick nutshell. I'd be happy to talk about anything specific if you would like, or if you come up with any questions later, I'd be happy to answer those if you come up with a question later. Anybody have any questions about that particular portion of this? The other two documents that you have in front of you, one is called the required communication with those charged with governance. It just states that, list out the things that we think are the significant estimates related to the financials, which are those numbers related to your pension and your OPEB, the useful life of capital assets, as well as your allowance for doubtful accounts on some of your receivables. States that we did not encounter any significant difficulties in dealing with management throughout our audit. Holly and her team were very helpful, as well as Tara and her team over at the school board. We asked a lot of questions when it comes to these audits, and they answer all of our questions in addition to keeping the finances of the city and the school board running while answering all those. So definitely very, very thankful for all their help in the process. The other document is the comments on internal control and other suggestions for your consideration. This is just some things that we kind of like to point out. A lot of these are IT related, but the one thing that we did want to point out was the waterworks fund is broken out between your water and your sewer segment. And for the current year, the water portion of that fund did have an actual loss. That can vary from year to year, but that's something to kind of always kind of keep an eye on to try to make sure that your proprietary funds are functioning as self-sufficiently as possible. Like I said, the overall fund was positive, which is definitely a good thing, but something just to kind of look at, because the state of Tennessee requires that if that fund were to go negative, then the state would possibly get involved. But not a big issue at the moment, but something to for you all to look at and ponder and whatnot. But Again, I want to thank y'all for the opportunity to work with the city again. We definitely enjoy this, the working with the team here at the city, and being able to present to you all here at the council meeting. And hopefully Holly can get a couple days and rest up a little bit. We had a lot of conversations there towards the end trying to push this out, but everything was filed timely with the state as well as submitted with the GFOA to obtain that certificate for next year.
Well, thank you, and thank you, Holly. I know it takes a lot to get this together, so.
And I would note, no rest for the weary because it's budget season.
Most
That's-
definitely.
And
She's got a plate cleared now.
will this be posted on our website? Yes. So just to deal in full transparency, it's there for the public to peruse and enjoy reading at will.
It'll be on yours unless, we submitted it to the state of Tennessee, and the state of Tennessee also puts it out on the comptroller's website as well. So,
Thank you.
thank you all very much.
Thank you. Next, we have our Board of Education report. Dr. Tudor?
Good evening, everyone. It's great to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Congratulations, Mayor Turner and Vice Mayor Hutton, on your
Thank you.
reappointment to your positions. Just a few things this evening for you. I'd just like to recognize that the week of January 25th through the 27th is School Board Appreciation Week in the state of Tennessee. So just like to publicly thank Chair Eric Cuddy, Vice Chair Jim Butcher, Secretary Derek Linkus, and board members Debbie Darnell and Jennifer Henson for their service to our school district. They do a lot for basically no compensation and very little kudos, so I appreciate them very much. You may have heard in the, well, I don't know if it was on the news. Actually, it was on the news. Just before Christmas break, we learned of our school letter grades. That's somewhat a new thing, although it's an old law. A law was passed by the state legislature in 2016 that every school would have a state letter grade based on our accountability system, and it was delayed for one reason or another. Some of it had to do with TCAP testing flaws at the state level, and then other COVID issues delayed that, so the state implemented that this fall. However, we were assuming it was going to be a particular calculation for 6 or 7 years. We thought we were going to be evaluated the way we've been tracking our accountability, and they actually went through a series of town hall meetings across the state and garnered feedback and changed the calculation. They told us of the calculation in November, and then about a week or two later, they told us how the calculation will be broken down, but they didn't give us a grade scale, and so then they pushed that out in December, told us what the grade scale was going to be, and then told us what our grades were. And so the new calculation is heavy on achievement, which is essentially the number of students who pass the test, basically the proficiency level. And there's a cut score for all of that, but 50% of the calculation is based on achievement for both high schools and K-8. The other portion of it, there's about 40%, depending on the level, could be 30 or 40% for growth, which is, you've probably heard us talk about level 1 school district in 1 year, and then we were a level 5 district last year. That's growth on a 1 to 5 scale. The other component, for high school, there's a college and career readiness component, which has to do with either a student's ability to achieve a 21 or higher on the ACT, or a 31 on the ASVAB, or earn an industry credential or a dual enrollment credit. There's a variety of ways you can get that indicator. And then finally, all of them, the students' grades 3 through 8 were evaluated on the lowest performing 25% of students and their growth for the lowest population. So I'm proud to say that even though we didn't know what the grading scale was going to be, our students fared very well. Our staff did a great job. We had all A's and B's in our school district, which is phenomenal, particularly for title schools. To achieve A's and B's is pretty tremendous. So I'm very proud of our folks and wanted you to be aware of that. The state will be pushing out the entire state report card later in January or early February. We haven't even seen the whole report card. There is a dashboard that you can search now by school, so you can search any school in the state and see what their scores are, their grade is, but just wanted you to be aware of that. The full report card will come out later. And then the only other thing I wanted to note was that we are offering universal free breakfast and lunch for our students. We started that yesterday, actually. It's a part of the federal community eligibility provision. So, and that has to do with, we are now eligible for that because we have such a high poverty rate in our school district, and that's why we qualify for that now. We haven't really qualified for that previously, but obviously that's a great benefit. In essence, it saves a typical family over $100 per student a month. So if you have multiple students in our school district, that's a pretty significant savings, and so we're very pleased that we're able to offer that. That's all I have for you, unless you have questions for me.
I have just one. You were talking about the scale for growth of improvement in the lower 25%.
Yes.
Can you expand on that a little bit about where we are with that?
I can send you some specific details. So every school has their own calculation, so every
Right.
school fared differently. So that's at 10% of the overall grade for each school versus 30 or 40% for the other growth, which is growth of all students. So that bottom 25 actually counts twice. Counts in that bottom 25 growth as well as that upper, the all student population, and then 50% of the achievement score. So growth is really, the definition of growth is a student's, how well a student fares from one year to the next. A 3 is they've earned a year's worth of learning and demonstrated that. If it's a 4 or a 5, it means they exceeded what was expected. They learned more than a year's worth of material. If it's a 1 or a 2, they didn't meet that mark. And it's really a measure for teachers. It helps
Right.
teachers know how well am I teaching the material? How well are my students learning that? What do we need? Where do we need to fill in the gaps? It has, obviously it has to do with what they're learning in that particular grade level,
Right.
but they can be behind and still show a year's worth of growth or
Right.
more.
Right.
So whereas achievement is knowing the standards on that particular grade level, growth is are you growing and learning more than you did the year before?
And is that applicable to not only the elementary schools, but to the middle school as well? I would think
High
it'd be
school as
hard.
well. It's
High school as
312.
well. And so, I guess in broad strokes, were you overall pleased with that growth at the 25%?
Yes, actually, we had no 1s or 2s in the 25th percentile, the lowest bottom 25%.
Great.
Everyone was a 3 or above. So that means they're achieving at least a year's worth of growth or higher. So yes, very. And in comparison, the way we used to be evaluated is based on subgroups. So the economically disadvantaged group, students with disabilities or ethnicity, all of those were different categories. And instead of looking at those subgroups separately, they're now just, it doesn't matter who they are or what their circumstances are, it's whoever's in the bottom 25th percent. And it's based on each individual subject. So they could vary, the number of students, they could be different students in reading than they are in math and science and social studies.
Thank
So
you.
it varies.
And thank you for indulging me to ask the questions, because I find this fascinating, because when we talk about testing and when we talk about achievement, everyone needs to show that growth and everyone needs to show that achievement. But if we're striking at the heart of the lower 25%, the bay should lift all ships. And so I think it's really important to understand that aspect of how the grade is obtained. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a few questions for you.
Yes, sir.
So I think it's great with the free breakfast and lunch. Do you have to reapply for it for the fall of '24, or is it the whole '24? How often do you?
We're going to be in a pilot initially, just to ensure that we can financially sustain it. But our intention is to be in it at least 3 years.
So when you say we have to sustain it, we're piloting it. Where's the money? Is it a federal grant?
It is a federal grant,
Okay.
but based on the reimbursement, it's really dependent upon the numbers of students who actually eat. And
Okay.
so we qualify based on our eligibility, based on our poverty level, but we still need all of the students. And actually, we think it's going to be better. We think more students will eat, which means we get more reimbursement. And so the reason we didn't really qualify before was we might have qualified in 1 or 2 schools based on poverty level and the numbers of students who ate. In other schools, we didn't. It didn't financially work out because the reimbursement wasn't covering the entire cost. We would have had to offset it with our own funds. But now that we have a higher population of poverty in our school district, and the calculation is a little bit different this year, it globally covers everyone.
So there's no, I mean, like, we're not going to save money from, like, the federal, it's just a reimbursement.
Correct.
I understand that.
Yes.
Okay. What about, does it work at all with sending kids home on the weekends? I know that the backpack thing is not something, but is there any part of that that helps kids on a weekend or over a holiday or any part of that?
No, unfortunately, you might recall during COVID that there were times that we had to have students come to our campuses to eat. That's part of the federal regulations, that it has to be on campus. Where it will help, though, is after-school snacks and an evening meal.
So that's
It just
part of
has
it,
to
too.
be served on our campus.
Okay,
The
so kids
snack
that-
is part of it,
So
yes.
kids are in LEAP, they can get
Correct.
snacks and,
Correct.
okay, awesome. So it's, in some ways, it's like 3 meals with a snack for some kids, right?
Yeah, the afternoon is probably not an entire dinner.
Okay.
It's the snack part of it. So it's probably 2 full meals and a snack is
Okay.
what they're getting out of that.
Is there anything going on with lunch debt? I mean, does it impact that at all? I mean, there wouldn't be any lunch debt, the kids are eating free right now.
There no longer is. There was
Okay.
lunch debt from first semester, but that's,
that's-
we'll absorb that, and
Okay.
that's a thing of the past.
Okay,
Now,
awesome.
we still offer à la carte, so students can still purchase à la carte without doing the entire meal,
Right.
but they will have to have money in account for that.
Okay. Switching gears, can you tell me, just give us an update on where things are with the Stone Castle and
Yes.
graduation? Will it be ready in time for outdoor graduation? Will that be Viking Hall or?
No, well, I don't know about graduation.
Okay.
I'm not going to publicly comment on
Right,
graduation. We are on track. We actually have, I showed some pictures today that we just took yesterday to our foundation. If you haven't been inside, you're welcome to go inside the Stone Castle. They've removed the entire lower level of that, the visitor side seating. You can see underneath now, so now they're working to shore up and fix the stuff underneath and resurface and do all those things before they start to build back. They've also started on south side, the handicap ramps that are going to be on both sides, on the parking lot side and on the school side. Those are torn up, and they're working on concrete and pouring those things. So we will be done by August. I don't know about graduation.
Okay.
It might be that we're out there for graduation. We just might not be able to sit on the visitor side.
Right. So I know you guys were accepting bids for the press box. Is there any movement on that? Is that right?
Yes, we were. I believe we've awarded that bid to Burwell. They'll do it as a part of the project.
So that'll have to be done before, at the same time in August, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are there any more ADA compliance issues, or, like Tennessee High in particular? Or is that like we're good?
Well, no, we're not good.
Okay.
Yes, there are all kinds of issues. The elevator is on south side.
Right.
And so if you come in the front entrance of Tennessee High School, you've got to navigate through the building to reach the elevator.
Right.
And there's only one, and it's aging, obviously.
Right.
And that building, as you're aware, was, there were additions to that and multiple.
Right.
It's not an easy place to navigate. It's hard to get to the cafeteria. It's hard to get to the library for students who need those access
Right.
points.
But all that's been, I mean, you guys it's all being addressed, and it's all being
Well,
worked on as part of, I guess what
no,
I'm driving
it's
at
not.
is, right, we're not,
I do think that at some point, I would like for us to revisit that conversation, because those are significant capital projects that we need to revisit, that we did do a joint study with council, actually, about Tennessee High School and renovating, and that was primarily because of the ADA access.
right.
But it's going to cost significant dollars that we can't do on our own.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that. I just enjoyed the Arby's Classic, except for one lady in particular really reading me the riot act about access to the ADA, going into Viking Hall, and
Yes,
she's already texted me.
it's access
About-
everywhere. That building is
Yeah.
really complicated.
While we were sitting here, she texted me about trying to get in to Tennessee High, so that's why I'm asking that question, but thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I would say that when we do get together with this, and if we get together with this, I think it would be advantageous to include our county commissioners from the get-go, because we know that the county commission is a larger funding source for our educational needs than the city itself. And I think it would be very important that our commissioners are there so that they understand from the very beginning what we and their constituents are facing.
We have one here right now. I
Well,
hope
I'm gonna
he's
call him
taking
out.
note.
But he's here, and thank you for being here.
Anything else?
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have one public hearing tonight, ordinance 23-13, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of Bristol, Tennessee by designating certain property as R3 multifamily, 1033 Fifth Street, 1037 Fifth Street, 1041 Fifth Street, 1045 Fifth Street, 1049 Fifth Street, 1016 Fourth Street Extension, 1018 Fourth Street Extension, 1020 Fourth Street Extension, and 1022 Fourth Street Extension, and 1032 Fourth Street Extension, and a portion of 851 Hannah Drive. So this public, I guess, the public hearing is hereby open, and Ms. Young will present.
Thank you, Mayor Turner. Good evening, council members. Thank you for doing the hard part there. I won't read those addresses again. So tonight, we're here for the public hearing, and then later on the second reading for an ordinance to amend the zoning map for the city. This covers 10 parcels that have either a 5th Street or 4th Street address. This was initiated by one property owner, Mr. Adam Hawkins at 1037 5th Street. He filed the rezoning application, but as staff started to look at the request, we saw a greater need to expand the rezoning to cover the residential parcels that are nearby. So the request tonight is to rezone from M1, which is a light industrial district, to an R3 multifamily district, which would allow the single-family homes that are existing to remain on site, to be sold, leased, owned, and then the vacant parcels, if rezoned to residential, could be rebuilt with single-family homes as well. Just a couple quick maps to share with you. This is the zoning map existing, and this shows the zonings of the adjacent areas. So we do have some R3 in the area, some B3 in the area, and then some M1, the light industrial, in the area. The hatched lines show the 10 parcels that will be rezoned with this ordinance, and it also indicates the hatched right-of-way areas that will be also zoned as part of this action. The future land use map is here on the screen now, and this shows that the area is projected from a future land use classification perspective to stay or to be a low-density residential land use in the future. So this rezoning request does align with the future land use map for the city. And then finally, this is a map that just shows just a little bit clearer picture of the parcels that will be rezoned. The 2 parcels at the end of 4th Street here on the screen, those are the parcels that are owned by the gentleman that attended the meeting last month, Mr. Myers. So he does use those for his plumbing business, or uses these here for his plumbing business. So those will not be rezoned, but all of the single-family homes and the vacant parcels within this area will be rezoned to R3. We did do a little extra public notification since this is some city-initiated rezoning action with some extra mail-outs, an extra sign on the property on the 4th Street side of the property. We did receive comment forms back from the parcels that are highlighted in yellow, and those folks are in favor of the rezoning request. The Planning Commission looked at this. They're meeting in November, and they did recommend unanimously a favorable recommendation to City Council on the request. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address council on this matter? Seeing none, this public hearing is now closed. Now we come up to our appearance of citizens. There was a sign-up form out front, and we have one person, Mr. George Link. Would you state your name and your address for the record, please?
George Link, 307 Rutledge Street, Bristol, Tennessee, 37620. I guess you'll never, guess what I'm up here to talk about. Honestly, looking forward to 2024 and seeing this project move forward. I look forward to working with the Parks and Rec Director and City Manager Burgess there. But more importantly, I wanted to invite you all. I sent an email out, but it was over the holidays, and the last thing we want to do for holidays is read email. There is a skate park fundraiser at the Appalachia Bouldering Center, January 26th. The owner, Jesse Cheers, and I were in scouting together, and he's a big skateboarder, if you don't know. He initiated wanting to do a fundraiser for the project, and city council members, city manager, Parks and Rec are welcome to come. You, of course, will not be charged because you'll probably be asked 1,000 questions by citizens, but he is doing a fundraiser with 100% of the proceeds that night going to the skate park benefit fund. It will be from 9 to 11. I apologize that it's that late, but it's outside of his operating hours and it makes his accounting simpler. Nonetheless, we've also had local skate shop owner from Johnson City, Mojo, first 10 people to show up. If you want to climb, he's going to pay for your climbing shoe rental. So outside of that, I appreciate y'all's time.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address council? Okay. We have one appointment this evening, the library board. We have 3 candidates and 2 positions. We have Donna Coffey, Crystal Peak, and Ann Rife. Would anyone like to speak on behalf of these candidates?
Yes, I would like to, I serve on the library board, and I want to speak on behalf of Crystal Peak and Ann Rife. Crystal Peak, so the library board has a term limit, so you can serve 2 terms. If you're appointed, you can serve that term plus 2 terms. Crystal Peak she taught at Avoca School. She now works with her husband at Lighthouse Supply. She has been very engaged, chaired bylaws review committee that we worked in depth to get those in good shape, and she did a fantastic job. Ann Rife chairs our finance committee, which meets on a very regular basis. I like what we do with the audit is have the auditor come to the finance committee, invite any board members who want an in-depth presentation, and do it that way. Anyway, so Ann has been great with serving in that position and taking charge of the finance committee. So I am supporting those 2 and would like to see them continue with their second term. Donna Coffey, I'm sure, is great and hopefully will be good at some point and will reapply, but I would like to see Crystal and Ann be able to continue to serve.
All right, everyone, pass your.
Thank you. Councilman Luttrell has Crystal Peak and Ann Rife. Mayor Turner has Crystal Peak and Ann Rife. Councilwoman Powers has Crystal Peak and Ann Rife. Vice Mayor Hutton has Crystal Peak and Ann Rife. And Councilwoman Feierabend has Crystal Peak and Ann Rife. So those 2 are.
All right, thank you. Okay, next we have ordinance 23-13, the second reading, to amend the zoning map of Bristol, Tennessee by designating certain property along 5th Street and 4th Street extension as R3. Ms. Young just went over this a few minutes ago. Is there anyone that has any questions for Ms. Young, or do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve ordinance 2313.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mary Lee?
Feierabend,
Yes.
Hutton,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Luttrell,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes. Next, we have Resolution 24-1, a resolution approving the sale of a tract of real property in the Bristol Business Park, Project Scotland. Tom Anderson is here and will present to council. Mr. Anderson?
Goes a long way. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. This is very brief. I think as our project advances, we've been working on this for well over a year. An approval to sell the city-owned property in the Bristol Business Park is required, obviously, to further support this project. And it also stays in accordance with our charter, with City Council approving this land sale, which obviously, like I said, just it goes to support this Project Scotland. It's 52.9 acres.
Are there any questions for Mr. Anderson? Do I have a motion on Resolution 24-1?
I make a motion that we approve Resolution 24-1.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just want to thank Tom and his team and also Sullivan County Networks for the work that they do, and use this opportunity, and y'all can chime in too, but to help public understand, and Tom, you could add to it, how hard it is to do economic development and how many unknowns there are, and how we can market and do a great job and have a great proposal, and somebody might not choose us. And that it's what fits their model, what they want to do, and it doesn't reflect on us at all or the job that we've done. It's just hard to get it right and get all the pieces together. So when it does, it's a real time to celebrate and to thank everybody who's involved in it. So, yeah. So
I'd like to add to that that, I think with this project, as we all know, and also we have April and Clayton from BTS, with BTS, and of us having the foresight and having these pad-ready sites is why this project is coming to us. Otherwise, it would be out of state. So I think that's, thank you for all your work and networks, and also with BTS to.
It's a true team effort.
Yes.
Well, and I think just to continue the process is that it takes applying for grants to get the revenues, oftentimes to be able to do the pad readies. And this particular project has been in the works for quite a while. Mm-hmm. And to Margaret's point, none of it moves quickly. And the state plays a huge integral role in all of these projects. There's some that we do without the blessing of the state. But for the most part, we're reliant on the state and their expertise. And I will say this, the state, BTES, Sullivan Networks Partnership, and our own team work incredibly well together. It's always great when the commissioner comes up and his team comes up, and they know all of our team on a first-name basis. They can speak to where they've been together, how these projects have all been put together, and we are very fortunate, and I hope the people of Bristol understand just how fortunate we are to have the relationships that we've had that have been built over years. They're not, economic development isn't something where you just come in one day and put a team together and you're off to the races. It takes years to build these relationships, and we have people that have been in the right place and have built the right relationships. So we're real excited. Thank you.
I'll just add to, just make sure people know that part of that team also is our community relations, who help with a lot of the PR and the materials that help to sell. And to me, it's interesting that Pad Ready is still so necessary, because we would think with technology and you can do your drawings and all that, you think we've moved beyond that. So it's interesting that that still is a critical piece that we're still doing. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to ask, Tom, do you recall how long ago it was when the first shovel of dirt moved there at that park? It just gives us some perspective of really how long
I'm
this
going to
thing has
look at
been.
April and Clayton. It was several years ago
Yeah.
that it started, but it began the investment and reinvestment, which has put us out in front of a lot of people in Northeast Tennessee.
Yeah, it's just something we've got to continue doing, there's no question.
Yes.
Great job.
All right, Mary Lee?
Fire Robin,
Yes.
Hutton,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Luttrell,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes. All right, next we're to our consent agenda.
All right. Thank you. First item is approval of the minutes for the December 5th City Council meeting. Next is approval of Resolution 24-2, authorizing the purchase of annual maintenance fee for the fire department reporting software. Next is approval of Resolution 24-3, authorizing the contract renewal for the purchase of bulk fuel. Next is approval of Resolution 24-4, authorizing the purchase of software support for Civic Plus. Then we have approval of Resolution 24-5, authorizing the purchase of an ADA van under the state contract for paratransit. Approval of Resolution 24-6 is authorizing acceptance of a grant from TDOT for that van purchase. Next is approval of Resolution 24-7, authorizing the purchase of patrol-rated Dodge Durangos under the state contract. Then we have approval of Resolution 24-8, approving an amendment number 7 to the Bristol Group Health Plan. Then approval of Resolution 24-9, authorizing the city to obtain cybersecurity insurance. And then approval of Resolution 23-10, approving an agreement with Premise Health Employer Solutions to provide the employee health clinic.
Would any member of council like any of these resolutions removed? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve consent agenda as stated.
Second.
A motion and a second. Mary Lee?
Fire Robin,
Yes.
Hutton,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Luttrell,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes. Next is our city manager's report.
Thank you. Not much. First, congratulations, Mayor Turner, Vice Mayor Hutton, on your continued appointments. Next Tuesday, we will be welcoming Mike Maines. He will be starting as our new Director of Parks and Recreation, so we're excited about that. And then just a reminder that the Chamber Annual Award Celebration, we did purchase a table for that. That is Friday the 19th from 10:30 to 1:30 at the Delta Hotel. If council would like to attend, we have room for all council members, so please just let me know, and we will fill the rest of the table once we know who is all going to be in attendance.
That's like 11:30 or?
11:30 to 1:30, yep,
11:30 to 1:30.
yes.
19th.
The 19th, next Friday. And that's all that I have.
Okay. City council comments.
Well, I'd like to congratulate Grandmother Fire Robin on a new grandson.
Thank you.
And new year, new hope, new life. Sadly, our business lost someone very dear to us today that had been with us for almost 30 years. And Mrs. Catherine Felty passed away this morning, and many people in the Bristol community know Trinka, and she will be greatly, greatly missed. I'd like to thank Holly and the Finance Committee for all of their hard work. At the end of the day, it's this council's responsibility to provide the oversight for the fiduciary responsibilities of the day-to-day operations of the city, but we're not crazy. We know who it is that is actually putting all of the nickels and dimes in place, and we appreciate your work alongside with all of the different directors of the departments and our city manager, Mary Lee, and Danielle. As we saw tonight, we have a lot to be thankful for in our community, and I'm sure I, like all of my fellow council members, just can't wait to share through this evening when we get home. We have a lot of great things happening here in Bristol. Good news for our school system. Thank you, and congratulations on the letter grades and everything that goes with that. Just wish everyone a happy new year. For a lot of people, it's started off great. New babies, great things. For others, maybe not so great. And to just be aware of who's around you and what's happening in their life. Talk to each other as much as you can and stay in touch. But thank you for letting me serve in this capacity. And congratulations to the mayor and
Well,
vice
thank you.
mayor. Continuity is a good thing.
It's an honor, and I appreciate the confidence in the rest of council to continue another year. And so thank you once again, and Happy New Year.
Grandmother.
Yeah, I'm called Emmy, that's and not Nana, or, anyway. Yes, 7 pounds, 7 ounces, he looks pretty cute, very, very, very tiny, that you forget how tiny they are. Anyway, yes, congratulations to our leadership. Also want to mention congratulations to Bristol, Virginia Council with their mayor, Becky Nave, and Jake Holmes as vice mayor. Hopefully interaction will happen.
I've already reached out to her.
Yep. So I think that's a good thing as to make some changes, et cetera. So, and have new eyes on different things. So my main thing I wanted to mention is Martin Luther King holiday is Monday, and in our area there's quite a few different activities and events that folks can take advantage of. The one that is community-wide for planning and for attending is at 2 o'clock on Monday, and the theme this year, this is our 6th, we had 3 years of COVID, so this is the first time back in person, and the theme is The March Continues. It starts with me. Speaker is going to be Ty Bree Faw, who is a Science Hill student who was very interested in civil rights as a 10, 11-year-old, and met John Lewis and became someone that John Lewis mentored. He walked with him on the Selma Bridge and had a lot of interaction, and is a pretty awesome young man. He will be the key speaker of that program. And also this year, and it starts at 2, it finishes at 3. Earlier events start at 12:30 with activities for children that Birthplace Country Music, the YWCA, different organizations are providing, and the kids may make posters and do some other activities. And then everybody meets at the YWCA and walks to, we do a picture at the sign, and then walks this year to First Baptist Church. It's been at the train station, and it was not reserved this year. So First Baptist Church is gracious for us to have the celebration there. There's King University has a speaker, and it's Anika Prather. And she is speaking that evening at 7 at Lee Street Baptist Church, and also 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning at the King Chapel service. Also, Lee Street Baptist Church has for many, many, many years done a 4 o'clock program on Sunday. That's open to the community and encourage people to come. Birthplace Country Music has several things going on during the rest of January and into February. The YWCA website has a calendar with the regional events, those that I've just mentioned, as well as ones in Johnson City and Kingsport and Abingdon with Appalachian Peace Education Center. So I hope a lot of folks can come out and be there. It's very good community time to be with each other. So, thank you.
You go ahead.
I'd just like to convey and congratulate Mayor and Vice Mayor on their reappointment. And just want to say thank you to this council and this staff for all the hard work that everyone does. And it's a pleasure, truly a pleasure and an honor working with this council. And look forward to a lot of work we've got to get done this year.
I want to say thank you as well, to council, for my reappointment as vice mayor. Thanks for your confidence in me, and looking forward to working with all of you and mayor as well. I'm really excited about what 24 has to offer for us as we think about the future of the city and economic development, a skate park, all those things we've been working on and want to see to come to fruition as soon as possible. Excited about things that are happening in our school system, and just really hopeful about what's happening next. So, thank you.
Right. If there's nothing else, we're adjourned.